Good morning and welcome to our weekly small business webinar supporting fire recovery here in Los Angeles. My name is John Bueri. I'm with Together for LA and the Dr. Lucy Jones Center for Science and Society. We're glad to have you join us once again as we continue to provide updates for small businesses across Los Angeles County that are impacted by this year's wildfires and windstorms. We're seeing folks join the call right now, so we'll wait just a moment before we begin. But as we do, I want to acknowledge that today we're going to be talking about some timelines and deadlines and timeframes. What's that recovery journey look like for a small business in Los Angeles right now? We're joined by a number of esteemed guests who have that information. And so we'll focus on that in the first portion of the program today, and then we'll open up to general questions as well that might inform either future topics or we'll be able to answer today. So today we're joined by representatives from the State Employment Development Department. We have representatives from the Small Business Administration at the federal government. From the County of Los Angeles, we have representatives, and as well from our partners at the nonprofit LA Economic Development Corporation, which is a key partner to the Together for LA initiative. So today I'd like to start with our recovery journey. We'd like to start with our partners at SBA to offer an update on timing and timelines for the various deadlines for a business to access resources in support of their recovery. So with that, I'll turn it over to Shashil and Lee.
Okay, can you see my slide here?
Yes.
Wonderful. My name's Lee. I work at the Los Angeles District Office of the U.S. Small Business Administration. I'm joined by Sushil from the Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience. Just wanted to go over some of the deadlines here that are coming up. One of the deadlines that is coming up is March 10th for those that have been impacted physically by the disaster. Just a sort of brief review, we have on our website here, business loans, economic injury loans, home loans, and then mitigation is coming up. One of the things that we're asked to comment on today is in reference to the sort of time frame, That's going to depend on how your business is organized, what sort of options. I think we lost Sushil for a second. Anyway, it's going to be important for you as the business owner to have all of your paperwork together and then be checking the My SBA loan portal. I'm going to put a link in the chat. If you have not already done so, you're going to want to sign up there. You want to make sure that you have put in sort of the reservation to obtain the funding. And if you maybe don't want to take it, there's no charge to apply for the SBA disaster loan. You don't have to take the money. Then there's also the deferral of interest and payment for the first 12 months from your first disbursement date. Also wanted to highlight the disaster center locations. We have the two mega centers, right? One directly located in Altadena and oh, sorry, hold on. They can't see the link. I'll go ahead and make sure it gets in there. But right now, can you see the appointment.sba.gov? This is where you can see the locations. You don't need an appointment to go into the Disaster Recovery Center. See, walk-ins are welcome, but it tells you the hours of operation and the direct locations for this information. So Altadena, there's one directly located in Altadena. You can walk in. There are dedicated customer service reps in the center that can help you with filling out the application itself. Another benefit of going into the disaster center locations, you're going to see other resources that might apply to your business. Another thing to consider if you have the COVID idle in the past, maybe you're not interested in something right now, you can apply for hardship accommodation on your COVID idle. That's going to be available to you in the My SBA Loan Portal. The My SBA Loan Portal is a mechanism for you in order to communicate directly with the SBA, and then you know you're communicating with an SBA rep. Going to be in the My SBA Loan Portal. Want to make sure that everybody understands about the deadline coming, the March 10th deadline that is coming up. If you have been physically impacted by the disaster, going to want to apply before that date. Economic injury disaster loan is the deadline comes up in October, but we just want to make sure that people understand you need to apply before March 10th. Also want to highlight that the SBA has a whole network of resource partners, Small Business Development Center, Women's Business Center, SCORE, Veterans Business Outreach Center, that are there to help you sort of plan out what you want to do. And just to highlight one of the resources that is available, Business Plans and Financial Projections Template. This is a free downloadable resource available to you right now. It's an Excel sheet. You answer questions in the yellow. It's going to auto-populate things for you, such as statement of cash flow, income statement. So Sheila, did you want to add anything?
There's a
Okay, I see
question.
some.
Yeah, let me go to that. So I'm going to first go to Juliana's question. For home loans, are homeowners eligible for the combined 500,000 plus 100,000, so 600 total?
Sorry, can you say that again?
For the home loans, this is not a business, but I just want to hit this one pretty quick. Are homeowners eligible for both the 500,000 maximum in one category and the 100,000 in the other category for a total of 600,000? I think it was referencing your first slide.
Oh, because so the property itself got damaged, but then the materials inside, yeah, you apply for both.
Great. And then there was also a question sort of towards the top. Is there any help, and maybe this is for everyone, but at least at this point, is there a cap if someone has sales more than $6 million? Is there a SBA program or is that the cap for SBA?
A disaster loan program is capped out for this disaster at 2 million.
So you couldn't make more than $2 million in order to access
No, no,
disaster.
no. You can't get more than $2 million for this disaster loan. So
What's
like,
the threshold for the question, I guess, is what's the threshold for to be considered a small business and therefore eligible? What's the sales?
so small is larger than you think. In this particular case, I don't think that is going to qualify as being a large business.
Okay. So if you had 600 gross, excuse me, 6 million gross, you would be able to
Because
apply to this
because
one.
because this is a disaster loan.
Got it. And then finally, can homeowners be denied the SBA loan and under what conditions?
One of the things that will end up denying you for a federal loan is if you have defaulted on prior federal debt. So like student loan, you defaulted on a federal debt in the past, that will end up denying you.
Thank-
Can you hear me,
Sushil?
guys?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Finally, of all the connectivity issues, thanks for having me. More than glad to answer those questions one more time if you'd like. You asked a question about homeowners for 500,000 and a business loan for 100,000. The answer is two separate buckets, and you can borrow up to $2 million. That's our statutory limit. As far as NAICS codes are concerned, the maximum, your definition of small business, there's a special website that designates the size standards. It's by NAICS code. Somebody making $6 million by itself, I wouldn't be able to tell you unless I know the NAICS code for them. So if they want to put that in the chat, what their NAICS code is, which is a 6-digit tax code on the top right-hand corner of the tax return, I'm more than glad to establish if they're considered a small business within that industrial classification sector. And there was one other question I believe you had asked, which I didn't quite get a hold of because I missed it.
The other question was if
Denied.
how would you be denied?
Okay. The most common reasons for denial across the board on the homeowner side is delinquent credit. If you're delinquent with your current creditors, chances are that the loan will be denied. But if the delinquency is a result of the current situation, talk to your creditor, give us a letter stating that you've worked out payment arrangements with them, and we're more than glad to work with that. Doesn't mean that we'll approve it. It just basically means that there's work to be done and we can work in that direction. The second reason, biggest reason for a decline is not enough income to cash flow the proposed debt. All of these are simple interest, amortized or repaid over a 30-year term, and a cash flow loan. So most people are able to afford this loan because the interest rates, which we're quoting, are absolutely rock bottom. And I want to emphasize that there is no one in this space, because we're authorized by Congress to make these loans for a 30-year term. Business loans are 4%, 3.625 for private nonprofits, and we're the largest source of funds, period. And we're here to help the majority of the folks. When we hear the language, you don't have to apply with us. The question then really becomes, where does your recovery needs get met from? So I'm going to turn that back to you, John. Otherwise, I'll go off on a tangent.
Sure. Thank you for that. One last question. If there's no collateral, will the application be denied?
No, sir. If you have collateral and say no, yes, we'll deny them. But the absence of collateral does not preclude you in any way, shape, or form from applying for us. And on that point, John, we've heard a lot of folks mentioning that commercial debris removal is still a big deal for rebuilding. You can apply with us. Debris removal is part and parcel of our lending program. And we're more than glad to assist those business owners that need the money to rebuild and also to remove the debris to get going.
Right. Thank you for that. Let me now turn it. Don't go anywhere, Sushil and Lee. Stay where you are. We're going to
Thank you, sir.
We're going to turn to some deadlines from the state with EDD for that disaster unemployment assistance. So Ken.
Yes, thank you, John, and good morning, everyone. As a reminder, March 10th, that magic keeps popping up, is the last day to file for a disaster unemployment assistance claim. However, depending on your last day of work, that claim could be backdated to a previous date so that retroactive payments would be available to you. Also, just to add on to our services at the Disaster Resource Center, Recovery Centers, we, as mentioned by Leah earlier, there are the two centers, Altadena and West Los Angeles. Currently, they are scheduled to be open till at least March 10th. Again, that recurring date is coming up here. One minor change is beginning in March, they will be closed on Sundays. So just keep that in mind. And it's a great location. It's a one-stop shop for everything. We have people from our unemployment insurance branch, disability insurance, as well as my branch, Workforce Services, on site. The folks from UI and DI can file claims on the spot, but we do encourage folks to bring their identification and any employment or wage records that they may want to bring along to request a higher maximum weekly benefit amount. The other thing that I'd also like to promote, and hopefully it's in the chat pod by now, is we just opened a fourth, not the EDD, but the city and county just opened a fourth, what they call an impacted workers and families center in Culver City. It's located at one of my offices, one of the America's Job Centers of California on Sepulveda Boulevard, and it's about a 10-minute drive straight down the street from the DRC. The great thing about this program, it's called the Impacted Worker and Family Recovery Centers, is it just opened on Tuesday, and they have some really great services available, not only for families and our youth and just people looking for employment, but they have small business services that are available in English and Spanish. They do provide financial advice for recovery, and they have grants available ranging from $2,000 to $25,000. So if you get a chance, those locations are open from 8 a.m. till 5 p.m., at least at my office. And there are 4 located within the County of Los Angeles. There's the Culver City office, of course, Sylmar, and 2 in Los Angeles, 1 in Leavenworth Park, and the other in Boyle Heights. So if that flyer is in the chat pod, please take that and use that as a resource. And thank you for listening to all of my promotional spiels here on the services that we offer. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. This is a great resource to provide to employees that you're connected with, or former employees, maybe that you know that might be looking for that assistance, those workers. So thank you, Ken, for sharing that update. We've got a couple more questions for SBA. Before we do that, any questions in the chat or in the Q&A system at the bottom for Ken? Just let me know. Type those in. But I'm going to go back to SBA. So Sushil, if you're available, one question is, can one idle loan pay off a previous idle loan and then get additional funds to rebuild?
The first part of the answer is no. The second part of the answer is yes.
Great. So yeah, one idle loan cannot be secured in order to pay off another one. It has to be for new uses. Great. The next one's a little bit longer, and I'm just going to summarize for everybody listening in. Is smoke damage considered damage by the SBA? There's a small business that's a home-based business, and then there's other impacts that came from it, but there was no water or fire damage. They had smoke impact, and there's also an evacuation warning in the area as well.
So SBA does not have a definition for damages. That comes from the emergency management team, right? So if you were in the disaster area and your address is part of the area that was devastated by water, smoke, ashes, debris, EPA, things along those lines, you can apply for assistance and then list the various damages that you've suffered. And if you also notice, John, they mentioned something about identity theft. If you want to offer them my email address, sushil.kumar@sba.gov, I'm more than glad to walk them through the steps they need to take without taking up the collective time of our group.
Yeah. I think so. Okay, great. And so you heard that, sushil.kumal@sba.gov. There's another question. This one's for Ken. What was the name of the grant that you mentioned, Ken? Could you speak to the grants once again for workers?
Okay, the grant that I mentioned was, it's not something that EDD actually administers, but it's administered at the Impacted Worker and Family Recovery Centers. And it's for small businesses in the amount of $2,000 to $25,000. And there are also some grants available for the general public that are up to $2,000. And those would be something you'd have to stop in at one of the centers to get information on, as they are not.
Hold on one second. Stephen Chung, could you mute yourself?
So schedules have shifted, and it's looking like
Stephen Chung, can you mute yourself,
for him to do like 11:30 around your closing plenary time.
So,
got it. Yes.
Is that okay?
We will do whatever it takes.
Okay. I think
Sorry, Ken, sorry about that. We're just trying to
Yes.
resolve that
Okay.
technical issue.
No
Um,
worries, John.
So I think you're referring, and we do have Layla is here from the county, and perhaps that's her grant program that you're referencing. And so I don't want to make you speak about someone else who has a program they could speak to
Thank
more.
you. I know there's a lot of grants out there from different
Yes.
funding sources, and actually EDD did grant $20 million in increments of 10 million each to help impacted workers and businesses as a result of the wildfires. And those, because we give them out, we cannot administer them. They're administered by the County of Los Angeles and the City of Los Angeles. But the one I was trying to promote today was actually a grant that is offered by consulting with staff at the impacted worker and family resource centers. They have an individual grant of up to $2,000 and one for small businesses that ranges from $2,000 to $25,000. But unfortunately, I don't, and they have representatives that will walk you through the application process in person. They're very, very efficient, and they also offer the services in Spanish.
Great. I think it's a great opportunity for us to turn it over to Layla, though, and give us some of the timelines for your grants and programs that you're offering. And then we'll come back to some of the questions that are here in the chat.
Sure. So thank you, John. So we still have our LA region small business and worker relief fund that's still available. We are going to close it on March 2nd. Originally it was going to be on the 24th, but we decided to give people a little bit more time in case they are having any issues like collecting documents, etc. And unfortunately, we will not be able to extend them further than March 2nd, only because we want to make sure that people are getting money. We were trying to get money out as soon as we can, so people can use that towards their recovery. As of right now, we do have, we are kind of trying to schedule, and I don't have those details right now. We'll share with you, John, as soon as we can, and then maybe you can share with everybody that's been RSVPing to these events. But essentially, we're trying to schedule 2 different application clinics, one near Palisades and another one near Altadena. And the idea of an application clinic will be, we're going to have TA providers for both businesses and workers they're going to be there to provide one-on-one assistance to help them finish their applications, because we know March 2nd is around the corner and we want to make sure that they can get the help they need, sit down with them and just really go through their applications. If you are a business that's interested in this, and once we share that information, we suggest, bring your computer, bring your laptop, right, with your application, so they can assist you in the process.
Great. And so again, the deadline for both of those funds, both for workers and for small businesses, is going to be March
2nd. Second. Yeah. And I believe we also kind of invited the SBA to join this, this day, just because I know their expiration is also soon approaching on March 10th. So we're hoping to just have a place where people can just go in and get the help they need. It's going to be, I think in Altadena, we're trying to do 2 different days, one during lunchtime and another one like after work. So we can, so that's what we're trying to schedule.
Great. And could you also, when do you expect the the distribution of those funds?
Yeah, March 15th.
March 15th. So it's a pretty quick turnaround.
It's very quick.
And just to clarify, I know we've got nearly 100 folks on the call from across the county. The funds are prioritized. Could you explain a little bit about the prioritization? Just to remind folks that while there's a lot of need, there's been some establishment of guidelines here.
Yeah, 100%. So we have the business funds. The business fund is divided into 2 different tracks. One of them is for businesses that are brick and mortar businesses, and the other one, the second track, it's focused on independent contractors and home businesses.
Hold on one second, Leila. Oh, there we go. Okay, there you go. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was competing a little bit there. So for brick and mortar businesses, we're prioritizing our tier 1 is really businesses that have been fully destroyed. Those are the ones that we're really focusing on first and foremost, providing then that's kind of support. Then as we kind of go down the tiers, the second tier will be businesses in the fire zone. So that could include businesses that now are they've been just damaged, or they didn't get damaged at all, but now they've been closed for a long time, or they've have incurred revenue loss, etc. The other tiers, it kind of goes into the emergency order zones, because we know that they also were ordered to evacuate. Their clientele, their surrounding clientele was also ordered to evacuate. And then the third tier is, the fourth tier is really focused on the evacuation warning zones. So that's one of the areas that we are really focusing on in terms of prioritization. The second path is focused on independent contractors and home businesses. So the first prioritization are those that not only lost revenue, but they also lost equipment or inventory as a result of the fires, because we know there's so many businesses, at home businesses, that they have inventory at home, they have their computers, they have their equipment, but unfortunately, those were burned during the fires. The other tier is really focused on those that only lost revenue. So that could including at home businesses or independent contractors that don't necessarily live in the area, but they are proving that most of their operations was conducted in the impacted zones. For workers is a little bit different. So for workers, we're focusing, our first and foremost, we are prioritizing those that lost their jobs completely. The restaurant, for instance, that was there before that they worked in, no longer there. And then the second one is really focused on those that had to temporarily, they weren't able to work temporarily. So hopefully this kind of provides a little bit of clarity and transparency. And I do want to share this with everyone. This fund was largely made up of funds that was provided through the County of Los Angeles, as well as some philanthropic funding as well. So what we're hoping for and what we're advocating for in every level of government, as well as to philanthropic partners and corporate partners, is to provide additional funding, because we don't want to just support our priority businesses, because we know everybody is going through some difficulties at this time. So we hope, I cannot announce this right now, but we're hoping that we can have future rounds. So if you're not one of the businesses that get funded through this time around, please don't give up. We're working towards providing you the support that you need.
So to clarify, in order to be eligible for future rounds that may not yet have been announced, it's going to be the people who apply by March 2nd.
No, we're probably going to open a different round, and probably the people that are eligible, they won't have to reapply. They will just be
roll over. Okay.
Yeah, roll over into the next round.
But to answer our question, the last question there, that's not yet been announced or confirmed, that second round has been.
Yeah, I cannot confirm that or announce that, because
Perfect.
Yes, because we're still working towards getting more money as much as we can.
Got it. So then a couple other questions here. Thank you, Layla. And this is back for Ken and for our friends at SBA. For Ken, can you remind folks the locations to apply for DUA? Is it online? Is it in person? Is it both?
Absolutely. The most efficient way really to apply is online. However, to get started, you must establish what we call a MyEDD account. It's very easy. All you need is an email address that is unique to you and a password. Once you've set up that account, then you get access to our portal, which gives you access to filing, say, a disability claim or paid family leave claim, or a UI or DUA claim. The process for filing a regular UI claim is the same as filing for DUA. So they're going to ask you a series of questions. Now, on some of the first screens that you'll encounter, there are some screening questions, and this is where you need to make sure that you answer one question very specifically. It will ask, have you been impacted by a recent disaster in California? You must say yes. That tells the system that if you're not eligible for a regular unemployment claim, that you would then be eligible potentially for a DUA claim. That's super important. As you probably know, there's an established minimum amount for DUA claims. It's $186 per week. However, if you provide proof of income you can increase that up to as high as $450 per week. So when they ask you for your wages earned during calendar year 2024, you would include not only any W-2 wages you had, but independent contractor type wages, self-employment wages. You could lump them all together so that we can get a better idea of how we can best award you the highest amount possible according to the guidelines set forth for that particular program.
Got it. Could you just confirm the physical locations for EDD?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, if you want to file
Yeah.
in person, there's only 2 places right now, and those are the DRCs. Unfortunately, in normal times, we do not have walk-in offices for unemployment insurance. Now, I would say that if you need any assistance with general assistance, like helping us getting you registered for my EDD or getting you into the system, you're more than welcome to stop by any of our America's Job Centers of California, and we have over 200 in the state. You would just go to our webpage, edd.ca.gov, and then in the search engine, you would just type in EDD office locator, and then it'll ask for a city or a zip code, and it'll tell you the ones that are closest to your location. Now, keep in mind, not all of them have EDD presence. So you'll want to look for what they call a comprehensive AJCC. Affiliates generally would not have any EDD staff on hand, but they do have staff that are trained that might still be able to help you with filing a claim. But again, this is only where they can assist you. They can't physically do it for you. Again, the best resources would be the DRC. So you have a nice sit-down conversation, ask all the questions that you need to ask, provide any documentation that you may have. And they're really wonderful people. We've had the wait times haven't been excessive, so I would encourage that if you can do that.
Perfect. Thanks, Ken. And there's a very specific question, maybe at 11:30, maybe you could type an answer to that individual and let them know about their ability to apply.
Sure.
For a wide
Thanks.
one.
Thanks,
There's
John.
Absolutely. There's a couple folks asking for Layla questions. So I'm going to go back to Layla. Some folks have had a challenge uploading documents, 2 different questions about uploading documents. If it's incomplete, will someone reach out to them? Or
No. So if it's incomplete, we won't accept it. So what I would say is instead, there is a phone number on the website for AKIT. So, do reach out to them, but it depends. If you're having a technical problem, reach out to AKIT. If you're having is like understanding what documents you need to submit, reach out to our Office of Small Business.
Okay, so this person said they called Tech Help and they said to resubmit under different email address. Is that correct? If not, what's the best strategy to submit those documents?
Yeah, I wouldn't know. This seems like a very specific situation where the email didn't really work out. So I don't know why that email wouldn't work out.
So perhaps
maybe they made a mistake. I think what I'm assuming is just this person probably made a mistake when they submitted their first application, and they suggested they reapply with a different email. That's what I'm gathering from what you're asking.
Is that what they should do?
Yeah, because it's a little, I think probably that's the easier way to go about it, but you can also call them and they can, and if they can also try to fix it on the back end.
Great. You'd mentioned the clinic in the Palisades. Is that not yet set? But do you know where it's going to be or not yet?
Yeah, so that's the issue right now. We're trying to figure out the location for sure.
Okay.
We're talking to a lot of different folks to see
people
where this is going to be
should
held.
follow you on social media. That's a great way through Instagram.
Yes.
What other platforms are you on where they get that information when it's announced?
Oh yeah, Department of Economic Opportunity. We're pretty much on every social media, LinkedIn, Instagram. All of what are the ones? Yeah. X.
Let's go to people are having they've left voicemails. They cannot upload either. So I think if people are really
what is the problem with the uploading that you're having? I would love to understand.
Suzanne says I'm having technical problem in uploading. I called the number and left 3 voice messages. I can't upload either.
Suzanne, why don't you email me and let me see if I can get somebody to call you back if they're not calling you back.
There's a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can type her an answer privately through the system.
Yes. Understood.
There's a question. While you do that, I'm going to go back to EIDL loans for Anita from SBA. for Idle, who is the credit taken into account? My credit is not that great as a dance company. We've been severely impacted by the pandemic, Hollywood strikes, and now this. So is it the individual, the company? How does that, when we think about credit for
Well,
consideration?
for an idle loan, it's the business. And the fact that the pandemic, excuse me, the fire has impacted that, it will be taken into consideration in a positive way, in that will be factored in. And that's the whole purpose for the disaster loan and the economic injury. So, don't disqualify yourself in advance. Go ahead and apply. Credit score is not the primary factor for these loans. Okay, so go ahead and apply. And I did want to just point out that in our chat, the new fact sheet has been uploaded because there's been an amendment to it. The only amendment is that the date has been closed. It was an ongoing date, but the disaster date has been closed because it's not ongoing anymore. It's January 7th to January 31st. So people should just be aware of that. They finally put an end date. Okay, everybody. So that's the only amendment, but it is here in the chat that our district office partner, Leah, has put for us. And I did want to just point out that our district office is here for us, here for everybody at SBA all the time. Our disaster team, myself, as well as our regional coordinator, Sushil, we are in and out as the situation warrants, but your SBA district office is here with free services all the time.
And what does close date mean in regards to the loan? Does it affect the amount you get?
It will not affect the amount you get. It'll affect when you were damaged. So your damages have to occur within those dates.
Perfect.
Except for the economic injury. Your economic injuries can occur all the way up until the deadline.
Great. Anita, thank you for that. I see some typing happening for those individual questions, but there's another question here. But before I get to that question for all of our attendees, if you have a question that is not on this topic, but about your small business, something you need help with, put it into the chat. If we can't, or the Q&A, if we can't answer it today in the next 10 minutes or so, we can reach back out. If you put your email, especially, we can reach back out with that answer or schedule it for our next webinar, which will be next week at 11 a.m. So so back to Anita, if a disaster is listed from January 7th to 31st, will there be a new disaster listed for the floods that occurred on 2/13?
Okay, so it depends if there was an application made for a disaster declaration. But I can tell you that SBA is actually here and was here in California when the LA fires occurred because we have currently 14 active declarations pending in California. And we've been helping thousands of California homeowners, renters, businesses, and nonprofits before this presidential declaration occurred. So the best thing I can tell you to do to ensure that you do get a declaration is report all types of damages to your local government to make sure that you are counted in, because all of those damages are what your local government needs to hear about so they can collect that data and make an application for a disaster declaration.
Great. This is more of a general question. It might be for SBA, and it might be for Layla, and it might even be for Stephen Chung, who's the CEO of the LAEDC. Is there any resources available for houses of worship that have been damaged or otherwise impacted?
SBA, I can answer that question for you. So this is a very good question because houses of worship are generally considered non-essential private nonprofits. And FEMA is the entity that makes the determination as to what's essential and what's non-essential. And essential things are like fire, police, water. And what that means in terms of funds available is this. Essential entities apply for FEMA. Non-essential private nonprofits need to apply for FEMA, but they must apply for SBA and either get denied or spend down whatever they're eligible for first before they can get FEMA grant funds. And in the case of this LA disaster, it's very important because, for example, you must register for FEMA if you want to try and get grant funds. And the registration date to get a registration number is March 9th. And you have to register with FEMA, even if you think you might someday want to try and get FEMA grant funds. But then you have to apply as a non-essential private nonprofit to see if you're going to be denied or what you are eligible for with SBA, either by March 10th or March 17th. So our messaging is the same. Just apply, please, for everything, so you don't miss those deadlines. And we know what's essential and what's not essential, right? But it's a designation. And those are, hospitals can also be considered essential. But things like, elderly services, homeless shelters, food banks, things like that are considered non-essential. So it's really, really important. And I can send you, John, and you can share it out, links and a little bit more information that you can post for folks, the FEMA info as well as the SBA links and information about what's considered essential, non-essential, and so on and so forth. So
Right. Thank you for that. That seems to be helpful. We've got a couple other questions that are maybe offline. People put their emails and we'll take those. So there's a question here, and this is maybe one of the last questions. Where can debris removal requirements for those who have opted out of phase 2 be found? So this may be something that is specifically about a property owner. And I'm not sure. I know we focus primarily on the small business. So if you're a building owner, it would make sense. But Layla, I don't know if there's a referral for folks who want to get that kind of assistance from the county.
Yeah, let me put the link onto the website
Perfect.
but if you go to recovery.lacounty.gov, it's a good starting point. It kind of tells you how to get connected, and it kind of goes over all the different phases as well.
Okay. And Shayla's question is a general question of like, you need more revenues, right? So SBA is a great place to start for some of those grant programs that we've been discussing. But I also would recommend that you visit togetherforla.org, or where you can link to the LA Economic Development Corporation that does provide technical assistance on, every day of the year, but especially in this moment where you can access resources to help direct you to other providers in our network, nonprofits and other partners of the city of Los Angeles, of the county of Los Angeles, of other cities within the county. And the LAEDC is a hub for you to access those resources. So if you go to togetherforla.org, Shayla, that's where you'll be able to get some. And I see Lee is also writing some information for you from SBA. If you've already applied for SBA, this is a question for Anita, and I think this may be one of our last. If you're a business owner and already applied for SBA, can you still apply for FEMA? And I think I know the answer, but you want to talk about that?
yes. So again, if you're a business, I'm sorry, go ahead, John.
No. If you're a business, can you apply for FEMA and SBA?
You can, and let me just say this. Generally, FEMA doesn't assist businesses. However, the regulations for FEMA have significantly changed for the better, just as of March of this year. And I encourage everybody to apply for FEMA because they will provide things for businesses, especially if they're at home sort of businesses. For example, they're providing, like carpenters, if you had tools at home, the computers at home, things of that nature. So I definitely encourage people to really apply for FEMA. And if you had business tools and materials or inventory or things at home, please let them know, because it certainly doesn't hurt to ask, and they have loosened up a lot of their regulations quite a bit, and you might be very pleasantly surprised at what you may be able to get from FEMA. So please apply.
Great. Well, with that, I appreciate the insight from our experts and the panelists that join us almost every week. I know some of you are here. And so one last question, then we're going to run. Hannah says, how does a business owner apply for FEMA? And I think that the clarity that I heard you say, Anita, is that as a resident that may have been impacted and your business was home-based, you can apply for FEMA. But if you are strictly a business owner and only your business was impacted, not your home, the business itself cannot apply for FEMA. Is that correct?
That's the way I understand it in generally. However, I would encourage even the business to apply, because you just don't know. I mean, they
Well, I
are.
think FEMA sent them to SBA when they tried to apply. That's what Hannah is indicating, that they were
Oh,
referred
yeah.
back to SBA.
Well, then, yes, then, but if what I have told people is, if they maybe applied for themselves as a person, and they didn't elaborate on, they had a home office, or they should go back and ask if they can amend their personal application as well. Maybe so. But if they strictly had the business, then they didn't have anything.
Perfect. Thank you, Anita, for being here. Thank you to Layla, to Lee, to Stephen and Ken. Thank you all of you for spending some time with us today. We will be back next week to continue to answer questions and provide updates on resources available to small businesses as we work together to recover from these devastating fires. Please be safe this weekend, and we'll see you all next week.